Yakirisu. Yakirisu was an indie Lithuanian-American VTuber who debuted as a PNG tuber on January 23, 2022, and later switched to a live 2D model on November 6, 2022. Yaki's controversy would be a rather massive one, having a whopping 11 statements made against her throughout the course of the drama, though the first three individuals, Deputy Aru, Ultima Shadow X, and Johan Tsushima, aka Hazel, were the primary individuals that would be identified later in Yaki's response. These statements would be made on May 30th, 2023, when a Google Doc was posted by Aru that discussed both their own and Ultima's abusive experiences with Yaki. This would be followed by a statement from Hazel, where they discussed their relationship experiences with Yaki. Ultima's statement revealed that Yaki was begging him to move in with her due to alleged financial issues after her ex left, to which Ultima agreed to do. This would be later followed with aggression towards Ultima, as he would be physically and mentally abused by Yaki, along with being forced to pay for Yaki's pet expenses and gas. This would go on for months until Ultima DM'd Games Cage, aka Fatal, his experiences with Yaki, stating how the abuse went on for far too long and was scared to come out with this information. Ultima would post the next day, where he would provide a timeline of events and mention how he was working towards recovering from the situation, and that he was safe. Aru's statement discussed how Yaki would weaponize her friendship with popular YouTuber AlphaRat, along with other connections, to bully her, Ultima, Fatal, and another creator by the name of Isabel. She would go on to discuss how Yaki would slander Aru's reputation by making overly exaggerated claims, and even downright lies, about her and Fatal's short-term relationship, including saying how Fatal was cheating on her and was slandering her behind the scenes. Aru would also discuss how, on a birthday trip in LA, Yaki would manipulate these claims and lies to disconnect her from her friends, causing Aru to be uninvited from a group dinner, ghosted by her friends throughout the trip, ditched at a house where she didn't know anybody there at 3 in the morning, stranded in the middle of the night due to a false address being given, and bullied to the point where she sought therapy post-trip. She would discuss with AlphaRat about this after her trip, to which he was very shocked to hear the information, and clarified that some of these statements ended up being twisted, and that, while he was initially surprised at her sudden friendliness, he had no issues with Aru at all, and apologized that she had to go through all of this stuff. The two would clear the tension and move forward as friends. Hazel's statement expressed total support for Ultima and anybody else impacted by Yaki, by discussing their personal relationship experiences they had living with Yaki from 2018 to 2021. They would highlight the abusive nature Yaki had during the relationship, as she would become more and more controlling of their life and finances over time, especially since they were the main source of income out of the two. Yaki's abuse would get worse the more she grew on Twitch, which led to Hazel breaking up with her. Yaki would begin dating a Twitch mod by the name of Ruby, and would start physically abusing Hazel and even locking them out of the house. This would lead to Hazel's self-deletion attempt through sodium nitrate on May 12, 2020, and would get hospitalized as a result. After the release the next day, only for Yaki to claim that it was just a panic attack, Hazel would move out on June 11th, taking their cat with them due to Yaki's abuse towards the cat. Yaki would post a response document the next day, where it contains 14 pages of attempted clarifications, corrections, and screenshots of DMs from Ultima, Aru, and Hazel. The document boils down to this. Regarding Hazel, Yaki claimed the abuse allegations were entirely false, stating that Hazel stole their cat and that the two were planning to get married at one point. She stated that Hazel wasn't paying their mortgage payments in full, and that Yaki broke up with Hazel, not the other way around. Regarding Ultima, Yaki claimed that while the two did have past disagreements as roommates, the extent of his abuse allegations were extreme. Yaki denied threatening Ultima if he spoke out, and claimed that Ultima didn't have issues with Yaki after he moved out. Regarding Aru, Yaki claimed that the story about the LA trip was largely untrue, stating that the events that transpired there were generally warped to paint Yaki in a bad light, such as ghosting Aru and providing the wrong address to the party. Yaki did admit to bad-mouthing Fatal, and stated that there was no proof that he cheated. The response proved to be a total disaster, with even more statements coming out from various individuals supporting the three, and overall public opinion towards Yaki being extremely negative. While I don't plan to discuss the rest of the statements here in detail, I'll provide links to their respective documents in the description. Generally speaking, the statements support the three by providing various experiences each person had with Yaki, such as overly rude behavior for no reason, getting scammed by Yaki, and general disappointment towards her actions. AlphaRad would provide a brief statement regarding the situation, where he states that he will no longer be featuring nor working with Yaki in future videos, which, given that arguably Yaki's fame mostly came from being publicly close friends with AlphaRad, would lead to Yaki's death to her career. As of this video, Yaki has ceased all content creating activities, with her last stream being on May 28th, 2023. Her main YouTube channel still has 2 videos and 3 shorts posted, and her VOD channel contains her final PNG tuber stream and her Smash or Pass stream. It is generally unclear whether she plans to come back into content creating or not. Azria. Azria was an indie Mexican VTuber who debuted around early 2020 and was one of the fastest growing mute VTubers in the Spanish community. The controversy would stem on October 10th, 2020, a bit later after Nemu VT's model theft controversy, where the witch hunt against Nemu was still going on. Azaria encouraged others to attack and harass Nemu over the drama, despite the two appearing to be decent friends with one another. Some digging by Nemu found that an older email, sent by a legitimate-looking music producer who gushed about Azaria and wanting Nemu to collab with a growing channel, was in fact Azaria herself, who manipulated Nemu into a collaboration through this fake persona and story. A video would be posted by Spanish YouTuber Terry a few days later, which investigated various suspicious details and activities from Azaria. Some of these details include a business email that was linked to a different YouTube account, Shiro EDM, the same account having a merch store that sold Azaria's merch, and an old interview with Azaria mentioning how she used to produce EDM music, with their tracks being very similar to the tracks on Shiro EDM. This would solidify some form of a connection between Azaria and Shiro EDM, where it would be later claimed that the two accounts were run by the same individual, a male. With pressure increasing due to Azaria's story of being in a car crash not adding up, as she would often mix up the age in which she was involved in this crash, Azaria would attempt to do a face reveal to avoid further suspicions. This ended up succeeding, for a little bit, as it would turn out that Azaria had a friend to pretend to be her, to which after finding out about the Azaria controversy, they allegedly exposed her to her online boyfriend, who went public about this information. Azaria would eventually post a response on October 15th of the same year, where she would confess to various lies about her identities and actions. Attempts to come back would happen several times, both through VTuber and IRL personas, but it would fail on numerous occasions. He would later join a VTubing agency by the name of Uwu TV under Koro VN, but would get linked to his Azaria controversy fairly quickly. As of this video, Azaria hasn't made an attempt to come back to streaming, though it's not 100% sure if it will remain that way. Given his numerous attempts to come back in the past, there is always the possibility that he's either active now or will become active later.
Nemu VT. Nemu VT, or Nemu Space Cat, was an indie Argentinian VTuber who debuted on February 13th, 2020 on Facebook Gaming, May 16th, 2020 on YouTube, and April 1st, 2021 on Twitch. She was one of the fastest growing VTubers in the community, with her being the most subscribed VTuber in Latin America starting around August of 2020, and being in Stream Element's top 10 Twitch VTubers of June 2021. Nemu would be involved in numerous controversies during her VTubing career, including bad-mouthing someone by claiming they stole a model, face reveal drama, a troll OF account, lack of accountability for her plushies not being sent out by a third-party company, bashing on other Spanish streamers during a tier list stream, and other serious allegations. While this trail of controversies did impact her image negatively, none of these controversies would truly pave the way to Nemu's quote-unquote downfall. This would change on June 2nd, 2023, when Rubs Cohen, a former top donor of Nemu, would post a series of statements on Twitter, including a follow-up series of posts on June 8th. Rubs would go into detail about how his status as a top donor led him to be in direct contact with Nemu and be included in her inner circle. When he mentioned how he was thinking of pursuing content creation himself, he would be directed to an agency called Kaze Agency Spa by Nemu, where he would receive information about their services and prices for working with Nemu and the agency, which would initially cost him about $28,000 USD before being lowered to $11,479 due to his top support. He would accept this offer and sign the contract, making payments on time. When his payments started failing due to PayPal flagging his large transactions, he would get pressured to find alternative methods or face massive penalties, despite him not receiving the majority of the services that were promised to him. When he tried to talk with a lawyer about this, it would be found that while the agency was a formally constituted legal entity, they did not have any employees nor carried out economic or corporate activity. When Rubs confronted Nemu and the agency, he offered to not go public about this situation if they simply refunded his last payment of $3,500, to which the two declined and refused to take responsibility, as they weren't sure that Rubs would actually remain quiet. Nemu offered Rubs more stream collabs as a form of compensation. However, Rubs was mentally done with the whole ordeal to the point where he tried to take his own life due to this betrayal. This would be the start of Nemu's slippery slope towards her rapid downfall. While this controversy didn't kill her career, she would later face serious allegations of faking physical abuse, faking suicide attempts, and even pulling a Shane Dawson with a dog, though this claim would be later debunked as a lie. Eventually, on November 17th, 2023, she would retire from her VTubing activities and chose to continue as an IRL streamer, where she streams to this day. Her main YouTube channel would remain up, but would go inactive in favor of her new channel, Nemu Poker, where, as the name implies, she uploads videos of her playing poker. Luca Kaneshiro. Luca Kaneshiro is an active English-speaking VTuber from Nijisanji's Luxium Wave, debuting on December 20th, 2021. The main controversy would begin on March 29th, 2024, when a VTuber by the name of Raziel Warmonic posted a massive document
being 58 pages before it got mass reported. This would lead to Google taking down the document to quote, violating terms and conditions, which was quite an unprecedented response to an expose document. Fortunately, there are re-uploads of the document in circulation, which I will include one in the description. The document covers a lot of things, but is split into several sections. Overall, the document's purpose was to showcase Raziel's experience and friendship with Luca pre-Ninja Sanji, who was known as Java, and into his Ninja Sanji career. In terms of her experience pre-Ninja Sanji, Raziel talked about meeting Java in VR chat around December of 2018, through a roleplay-oriented lobby hosted by Rolf Gator, where Java asked Rolf Gator if he could set up a character date with Raziel's character, to which the both of them agreed to do, as this was a popular form of roleplay at the time. Raziel would set firm boundaries about not actually dating after their character date, and Java would agree to them. The two would become close friends over time, and would reach a point where the two talked about their experiences of abuse, with Java talking about his abusive home situation at the time, and Raziel sharing her stories and how she dealt with those tough situations. It would take a turn for the worse, however, when Java admitted to touching himself to Raziel's voice, along with other obsessive behaviors down the line. He would also admit to struggling with respecting the LGBT community, through instances of harassment and fear towards members of that community. During the Niji Sanji audition process, he would make 2 sock puppet Twitter accounts to harass others, which Raziel confirmed to be owned by Java due to Twitter sending a 2FA code to an email that she knew was his. When Java got accepted into Niji Sanji and became Luca, the two were still close friends at the time, and would continue to have this friendship for a little bit. This would change over time when Luca would start treating her poorly by making comparisons to his abusive mother, victimizing himself, and accusing her of expecting too much out of him. Raziel would state that this behavior worsened over time, especially with situations like the Ring Fit Adventure incident, where Luca and Raziel would get attacked over a misunderstanding regarding people getting timed out and not banned for sexual comments. Raziel would also discuss how he would often have disagreements with other livers as well. Raziel would mention how she would do different tasks and requests from Luca, such as mod work and technical support. While she was credited for a few things, she claimed to not end up getting credit for a lot of the work she did, such as stream overlays, Minecraft builds, schedules, video scripts, handwritten messages, and other unmentioned works. She would also learn about internal affairs in any color, including the fact that Luca and the others weren't trained for public relations, and later on, her friendship with Luca became more toxic, with Luca telling more and more lies and becoming more aggressive towards her, and the two becoming codependent. Eventually, the friendship between the two would break apart, with Luca's most recent message asking for tax information. She would also briefly go over various Niji Sanji allegations, such as confirming the infamous Astor Arcadia's harassment towards other coworkers from an anonymous liver, how the same liver would state that Luca would also harass others inside Niji EN, and how Luca himself would vent about livers dating each other. The response from Niji Sanji? A cease and desist letter delivered to Raziel to forcibly sweep the controversy under the rug. Luca would remain in his position and remains active as of this video, though would hold a partially stained reputation as a result of the document and Niji's removal of it. There is speculation whether the document was legitimate or just pure slander, and I'm not advocating for either side. However, given the time in which the controversy occurred, where Selen Tatsuki's termination happened the month prior, community members at the time would be skeptical of Niji Sanji's current and future intentions regarding these types of incidents.